Hello everyone, welcome back. So, we have a Kazuha rerun ongoing right now, and naturally, once again, the big question is, should you get him? No. I've done a couple of should you get Kazuha videos in the past where I go through what makes Kazuha a really good character to get, so feel free to check out those videos before coming back to this one. Now, keep in mind that those are essentially the general consensus points at this particular moment in time, especially informed a lot by the meta. So, I guess once you hear one Kazuha opinion, you've effectively heard all of the Kazuha opinions. But also because, what do I say every time? Kazuha still remains the most effective way of grouping Aloy's bomblets with regards to trying to trigger her Ice Rush. That alone is a pretty damn strong reason, in my opinion, to get Kazuha already. Now, Kazuha's last rerun was in 4.5, so hashtag real talk, not a lot has happened since then. It was mainly Arlecchino, who is of course a new character that potentially has teams that like Kazuha, but I suppose as well Clorad's introduction has some teams where he's kind of involved a little bit, but I feel like for the most part, you don't really put Kazuha with Clorad half the time. Hey guys, this is Kate the editor. I briefly forgot that there is always the super duper meta aggravate Clorad team that heavily relies on Kazuha to buff both Clorad and Fischl. This is actually a very strong team. The only thing that I don't like about it, of course, this is a team that doesn't really have a healer unless you play Medic Nahida, so this ends up being a bit of an issue for everyone who isn't, of course, Clorad herself. And then on top of that, if you accidentally use Nahida's skill a little bit too early during the second rotation, well, then you run into what I call the second rotation problem, where Nahida's off-field Dendro is just so overwhelming in terms of the Dendro app that it becomes hard to get that underlying Electro Aura so that you can swirl with Kazuha once again. Remember, you do need to swirl in order to get the Kazuha buffs for both Clorad and Fischl.
The birds cut ready. Time to testify.
And I'm sure you can play it with someone like Shigrid if you want to buff the crap out of someone like Farina, for example. That's an option. And because of the way that you normally build him being full EM, he is potentially a really powerful burning trigger as well. So I suppose Emily and later on Knight teams potentially might enjoy him for specifically that reason and that reason alone. Oh, and you can maybe fit him in Morlani teams as well, but we'll talk about that in a second. I suspect durations ends up being a bit of an issue for him, which is also part of the reason why he probably doesn't show up in Clorad teams all that much. But we finally have some information on an upcoming character from Natlan, who is a very exciting upcoming character from Natlan, in fact, and who I think, based on what we currently know, is a very decent reason not to get Kazuha in favor of getting her. So, here's the deal. If you just want to know what makes Kazuha great and why you probably should get Kazuha actually, check out the previous two videos that I mentioned, and we'll have a nice day. This video, on the other hand, is going to be my thoughts on why it's probably a good idea to swap out from getting Kazuha in favor of getting Xilonen. That's right, based on the leaked information that we currently know about. If you don't want to know anything about Xilonen's kit until the inevitable 5.1 announcement livestream, that's absolutely perfectly fine. Hope you enjoyed this video for however short it is. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more Genshin Impact content, and that goes for everyone as well. Don't forget to hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe. Did you know that 94% of y'all aren't subscribed? What's up with that? Huh? Hit that subscribe button. It's not like it's going to affect you negatively in any way, shape, or form. But it does give me a serotonin boost in the morning, so we, you know, we do like that. But yeah, either way, let's get into it. Let's talk about Kazuha and Xilonen. Kazuha is best summarized as damage percent buffs based on his current EM for each element that he swells, plus red shred for those elements via VV, both of which are on a single digit duration. Well, single digit apostrophe duration. There is a way of potentially making at least his damage percent buff double digit duration. Xilonen, on the other hand, can be summarized as unconditional red shred based on the team comp, solo triple Geo as far as I can tell, plus damage percent for Geo and elements she can crystallize with the scroll set, both of which are on double digit durations. So, oh, and she can single target heal for some reason in non-triple Geo teams, so she's got a lot going for her in her kit. When you look at it like that, I think for a lot of teams, Shilonen's going to end up being more versatile than Kazuha. And let's just pause right there. Because that is a sentence that I don't think any of us expected to hear in the year of our Lord, the Almighty Narukami Yagosha, God of Thunder, 2024. But let's talk about why. Her damage duration is straight up longer than Kaz's damage duration. I mean the damage percent buff. Kazuha's damage percent buff can last for 8 seconds if you just use his skill and swirl, and that's it. But if you use his ult, it's entirely possible that you can make it last for 16 seconds. The scroll set on any Natlanian, on the other hand, lasts for 20 seconds. That's it. So no matter what, the scroll set actually surpasses Kazuha's damage percent buff in terms of duration. And Shilonen's Res Shred tends to last longer as well. Because Kazuha has to rely on VV in order to do Res Shred, Shilonen's Res Shred, on the other hand, can currently last for 15 seconds. Damn. What Kazuha might have a leg up on is mainly the amount for each buff. So what do I mean by that? Kazuha's damage percent buff is based entirely on his current EM. So if you happen to have more than 1000 EM, he will give more than the 40% damage percent buff that the scroll set provides. Also, VV gives a 40% res shred. At crown level, Shilonen's skill only provides a 36% res shred. So, you know, slight difference there. Oh, and also, of course, Xilonen is a Geo character. No surprises here. She can't group Aloy's moblets. But she can heal. So, yeah. And also, from a pure aesthetic point of view, here's an opinion. I think Kazuha looks really nice for the wandering samurai sort of aesthetic that he's going for. That vibe he's definitely got locked down. But Xilonen is really, really hot. And on top of that, she's a rollerblade mommy. So she's got that 80s vibe going as well. So, yeah, she's really, really cool. And because she rollerblades, she's also got that movement buff because, of course, she's from Natlan. Everyone from Natlan, as far as I can tell, is probably going to have some sort of movement buff in their kit. The calculus is thus. You can take a minor hit to your maximum damage numbers because, again, the amount of each buff is a little bit higher for Kazuha. But the exchange is for a significant boost in how long you get a buff. The decision at this point seems really, really clear to me. Whether you have Kazuha or not, I think it would be worthwhile skipping Kazuha in favor of Xilonen, because she's just around the corner. Now, let's just quickly hypothesize the team changes when Xilonen shows up. So let's talk about Aloy teams just to start off with. And we're not talking about French Loy. I'm talking about specifically, you know, not Farina-based Aloy teams. I'll talk about Farina in a second. Any Aloy team that replaces Kazuha with Xilonen will need to be played by someone who has mastered the art of baiting enemies into bomblets as opposed to grouping bomblets into enemies. Because Xilonen can heal, that means that she will at least solve the survivability issue of the arguably hardest hitting Freeze Loy team that I came up with a long time ago. But also because of the fact that you don't actually have to do specific reactions in order to get the res shred for Shilonen's kit, it's entirely possible that she's actually a huge boon to Burn Loy teams. So that's a really, really big deal right there. Because it's really, really hard to swirl cryo in a second rotation when enemies are still on fire. Especially if you're playing with Nahida. So, something to keep an eye on. For sure. Now, let's also talk about Navia, Ningguang, and Noelle teams. So, as you know, one does not tend to bring Kazuha to a Geo team. With the exception of maybe the Nighttime of Whispering Woods artifact set, but that's for a completely different reason. You're not exactly playing Kazuha for Kazuha's buffs. That being said though, here's something that I didn't mention about Shilonen's kit. Her skill has a 7-second duration as of right now. So not only are her buffs really, really good for the likes of Navia and Ningguang, because again, when she does the scroll buffs, she actually also buffs Geo. And if you have to play Navia and Ningguang, or Ningguang together with Xilonen, then provided the other two party members are not Geo, well, what ends up happening with Shilonen's kit is that she can also res shred Geo, I believe. So yeah, Navia and Ningguang really like playing with Xilonen specifically for that reason. But also, when you take into account that 7-second skill cooldown, she might also be a terrific battery for the likes of Noelle. The necessity of Xilonen's ult in Noelle teams, as far as I can tell, is mostly largely lost. If you're playing triple or mono Geo, then her ult actually is doing damage instead of actually healing. If you build Xilonen for damage, then okay, sure, her ult can be very, very good. But if you're not building her for damage, then obviously her ult's not going to be all that good. If you're playing double Geo teams, i.e. Xilonen, Noelle, and then I guess Farina, Rosaria, for example, Xilonen's single target healing will be largely unnecessary as well, because Noelle's already healing the team. That's one of the strengths of Noelle. So to that extent, yeah, probably no need to use Xilonen's ult in that regard. All of this to say, is Xilonen a Noelle battery? Well, apparently her skill generates 4 geoparticles, which is roughly the same as Navia's. So of course, with a shorter cooldown as well, I'd say the answer to that question is a very solid yes. And finally, let's talk about Farina. One thing to keep an eye on when Xilonen drops is whether or not her healing is going to be sufficient for a solo healer Farina team. Because again, she's a single target healer. It's usually very difficult to make that sufficient for Farina teams, as well as trying to maximize fanfare. Unless you're playing Nuvi Farina, in which case, look, all bets are off, it's Nuvalet Farina. He doesn't even really need a healer at that point. So far as I can tell, there is only one single target healer that can keep everyone topped off, as well as generate all of the Farina fanfare stacks, and that's C4 Full Heal Story. Okay? Recently, Sir Jeff calculated that Xilonen's single target healing numbers should be around the 5 to 6k per tick, with 8 ticks. Depending on how much defense you roll, of course. So, because of that, I'm not entirely convinced that Xilonen will have enough healing to basically get enough fanfare stacks for Farina teams, because C4 Full Heal Story provides the 10 to 12k range of healing ticks, and that tends to show up in some gigantic fanfare stacking for Farina teams. So all of this to say, I think it's entirely possible that if you're going to play Xilonen in a Farina team, you may actually need a second healer, in which case you're playing Xilonen as a replacement for Kazuha in Farina teams. And, you know, that's actually not a bad idea. Because what did I just say? It's a lot easier to get Xilonen's buffs than it is to get Kazuha's buffs. That's kind of where we're at with Xilonen right now, and how potentially she's going to be very, very versatile. Of course, I'll be looking more into that when she drops, because I'm definitely going to get her. I might even try and get her C2. We'll just have to see. But either way, let's now swing back to talk about Kazuha, because this video was a Kazuha video, I guess. Has there been anything new for Kazuha's builds? No. So when it comes to Kazuha's weapons, it's still Freedom Sworn, Zyphos Moonlight, Favj, or any EM sword. There have been no new EM swords as far as I can tell. When it comes to Kazuha's artifacts, unless you're trying to do DPS memes, in which case perhaps maybe consider the burning set for an Emily team. No, it's still VV all the way. And you just build full EM. No changes there. And finally, when it comes to Kazuha's constellations, nothing has happened that has changed my opinion on any of his constellations, honestly. So my opinion on his constellations remains the exact same to this day. C1, play Sack Sword instead. C2, play C6 Sucrose instead. C3 and C5 are useless unless you're playing DPS Kazuha. I keep forgetting that C4 is an ER constellation on him. And C6 is exclusively for DPS Kazuhas. That's pretty much it. So, I'm looking forward to the Xilonen release, and I'm kind of really considering going out for her. Like I said, I'm actually really considering getting C2. I know, it feels whaley in here, but hey, she's really, really cool, so you know, it is what it is. Let me know about all of this in the comments below. With all of this being said, are you still going for Kazuha? Because there are potentially Kazuha Xilonen teams that exist. Nuvalet maybe getting a buff, because as we know, Nuvalet is such a really, really bad character who needs all the buffs he can get. So obviously, as Jeff mentioned, we're getting Xilonen who potentially can be used in replacement of Zhongli in Nuvalet's strongest team. Yeah, he needs that buff, right? So yeah, it's entirely possible that you can play Xilonen and Kazuha together. No doubt about that. They're not mutually exclusive. It's just that in a lot of teams with Kazuha, you kinda need to replace Kazuha at that point instead of someone else. in that team. So something to think about, right? But yeah, otherwise, hope you guys enjoy this. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact action, and until next time, I will see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Time. The birds come. The wind knows me.
The hunt is on.
Into the wind.
Strike a pose. Let the world come out.
You had your chance. Let's keep going, team.
Got something for ya.
The wind knows me.
You're stuck now.
One with me.
Ever seen one of these? The hunt is on.
Onward, friends! Onward!